This is episode 100 of the Gauntlet Podcast, and my name is Paul.
This is episode 100 of the Gauntlet Podcast. My name is Kate.
This is episode 100 of the Gauntlet Podcast, and my name is Lowell.
This is episode 100 of the Gauntlet Podcast, and my name is Rich.
This is episode 100 of the Gauntlet Podcast, and my name is Jason. Hey, guys.
Hey.
That was so serious.
I know. Paul, welcome to the Gauntlet Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Listeners, that's Paul Edson. He is the new editor of the Gauntlet Podcast, doing a great job, and we thought we'd have him on for our special 100th episode.
100th episode.
It's actually not our 100th episode. This is our 116th episode, but it's the only one that's numbered. It's numbered 100. So
way to steal the thunder.
I know. I'm super excited. Just at the outset, I'm going to say that being at 100 episodes feels both unreal, considering I know where we came from. I was there on day one, and yet it also feels like totally obvious and inevitable. like this 100th episode feels so arbitrarily chosen. Like I've got 100 other Gauntlet related things to do as soon as we're done here, so we're gonna mark it a certain way. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I'm in a weird place with it. It's like, yeah, that's awesome, but it's also like, yeah, okay, it's just one more episode, so let's do something fun and cool that hopefully doesn't sound too forced or ridiculous. How do you guys feel about 100 episodes?
It's nice. I've crossed the threshold before with Cannon Puncture, so it's cool.
Indeed, yeah.
Oh, fiddle-dee-dee.
Well, I'm super excited about 100 episodes. Thank you all so much for all the help that you guys have done, not just with the podcast, but just everything that you all do for the Gauntlet writ large. It's super important to making the Gauntlet podcast happen and everything else that we do. So I thought what we would do, it wasn't actually my idea, it was a community member's idea, and I can't remember who it was. I'd like to credit them, but
I think wasn't it Tomes?
Tomer. I think it was Tomer Grants. I think that's right. Yeah. So Tomer had the idea of crowdsourcing a D100 table of questions, and we did that. We have a table of questions. Everybody here on the cast right now we're going to do a few passes around the table. We're going to be rolling on the table, asking the questions to each other, and whoever, in answering them. If it's on someone else's turn and they get a question that you think you'd like to answer, like if you have a good answer for it, just jump in there. If not, we will just keep going. We'll play it kind of, easy and loose. There are no rules on the D100 table of questions. And in this episode, listeners, intermittently, periodically, we're going to have some of our friends of the show and community members also diving in.
No rules on the D100 table seems very indie to me, and I don't know how I feel about that.
This is Super Rule Zero here.
Yeah, let's just do this. Who wants to be the question reader for this first round?
Do we have to do voices?
No, I don't think so. If you want to.
Okay. I'll read a question. Sure.
Okay. Roll D100.
I am rolling D100. I choose 4.
Ooh, all right. Oh, this isn't the most exciting one, but what are you playing or running right now?
Right now, I am running a little bit old school, running Blood Shadows for a group that includes Rich and Lowell and the delightful Sherry. It's interesting getting back into a system that has approximately 237 skills, or it only feels like that, but the Roll20 character sheet has made things kind of a little bit more streamlined, so there's not so much looking up, and it's a fun setting. It's sort of noir private detective stuff meets post-apocalyptic meets a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. So it's got some interesting juice in it, and the guys are doing great. We've only had one session so far, but I'm looking forward to continuing.
I'm sorry, that sounds like a personal nightmare.
What sounds like a personal nightmare?
Wait, running for me and Rich and my wife? That's a personal
nightmare? Which of those variables is your personal nightmare?
230 skills?
Oh, yeah, I know.
What's with that?
It's actually really 40, but
That's worse.
Still.
but-
like 40
yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Kuro was 140 skills.
Wow,
No. I reject your reality.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
You
it
have to
was
roll
crazy.
to disbelieve. If we've got a D100 on the
Yeah.
table, you have to roll to disbelieve, Kate.
I don't even know how to roll.
What's your turn? So I hope you
I have
figure it out
47.
shortly. What'd you get?
47.
I'll read for you since
Thanks.
you were the previous reader. 47. Okay, let's see what we have here. This is I feel like this is a perfect question for you just because I know
It's
you,
so
Kate.
true, though.
When were you the asshole in the game who ruined it for people?
Have you guys ever heard of Extra Life?
The charity project?
The charity
The
thing?
charity project, yeah.
Yeah.
So every year...
You were an asshole during
Oh
Extra
god,
Life?
it gets better. It gets better. So we were doing a 25-hour gaming thing at my friend Jonathan LaValle and Amber's house. And Amber is Jonathan's partner, and she has a son who's now 20, but at the time was probably 17 or 18. And he was determined to run D&D 5th edition for us. Now, Jonathan and I are both very snarky, non-trad players. And it might have been 3 a.m. So we sat there and just snarked at every plot line that came our way and completely ruined this poor 17-year-old kid's fun
Oh my
because he just did not want to be playing this game at all. I don't remember my character or his character or anyone's characters. I just remember feeling like a real asshole the next day. And now he doesn't really say hi to me when he sees me on the streetcar anymore. He's 20 now. It's been a few years.
He's got this
Wow.
grudge.
It's fair. He was 17 and I was like closer to 30. Like, anyways, yes, that's when I was an asshole.
Anybody else want to share their asshole experiences? This feels like a juicy question.
There was a time when I was running a game, this is back when I lived in the Twin Cities, and it was 2 couples and my wife, so it was like this social type of interaction. I was running D&D. This is 3rd edition time, and one of the wives, she just was in a mood, and every time I opened my mouth, she would just like cut in and try to finish my sentences with some kind of witty remark, and I put witty in quotes. But after half an hour, I just sat back and I said, okay, if we're just gonna hang out, let's just hang out. But if we're gonna game, let's fucking play a game. And she looked at me for a moment, got up, left the house, got in her car, and drove away.
Oh,
And that ended the
Ouch.
campaign.
wow.
Yeah.
I think you win.
Sorry. I don't think we ever talked again. Actually, it was
Wow, jeez.
it was pretty rough.
Wow.
That's
It was
pretty rough. Yeah. I have a board game one. My board game one was when I was in law school. I was with my best friend at that time. We were at his brother and sister-in-law's house, and we're all kind of into German board games in those years. And we were playing Agricola. I don't know if you guy know Agricola, but it's not important to the story.
Yeah.
In any case, we're playing Agricola, and because I was in law school, I was in this constant like anger defensive mode, you know, like everything just like got on my nerves, and I felt like really combative all the time, you know, just super defensive about everything. And so we're playing Agricola, a game I'd played dozens of times but had been playing wrong. I had a rule wrong. And one of the people at the table like called this out. They're like, "Oh, hey, I think we're doing this wrong." And I was just like, "No, we are not doing it wrong. I have played this game so many times. I know we're not doing it wrong." And then when I looked in the rules, I put my like textual interpretation skills to use on the rules of Agricola, and discovered that I was in fact playing it wrong, and I was mad. Like, instead of acting like an adult about it, I was really pissy for the rest of the night. I acted like such an asshole, and we were staying over. And the next morning, I woke up and I felt so guilty about it that I went downstairs and I like made like a big like apology to everybody at the house, because I just felt so bad, but I was just being such a prick. And yeah, so that's my bad.
At least you apologize.
I know. I felt terrible about it while I was doing it, but I was like, you know what? I'm all in right now, and I felt like I got to see this through. You know, and so then
Asshole to 11.
Yeah, then I slept on it, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is really bad behavior. I am here with game designer Fraser Simons and also my co-conspirator on the pocket-sized play relaunch. A co-conspirator is actually not a great way of putting it because it was really your idea. I just shrugged my shoulders and said, okay, yeah, let's do that. Hey, Fraser.
Hey, how's it going?
So, Fraser, here's what we're going to do. We are going to roll you're going to roll a D100. Do you know what a D100 is?
Oh, yeah. I tried Riffs one time, so...
Oh, yeah. So you have experience with percentile dice. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, so roll a D100, and let's see what your question is.
Wow, I got 6.
The number 6. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The question for you is, who are you rooting for on RuPaul's Drag Race? Now, I'm assuming you don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
I've never heard of it. Well,
You've never heard of RuPaul's Drag Race?
You guys have talked about it before, but I don't have cable, so...
Okay, we've got to get an answer here. So the 7 remaining contestants on Season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race are Shea Coulee, Sasha Velour, Nina Bonina Brown, Peppermint, Valentina, Alexis Michelle, and Trinity Taylor. These are men who dress up like women.
Yeah.
Okay, I just make sure you knew that. I don't know if they have that in Canada. That's why I'm asking. So, or that's why I bring it up. I'm kidding. I know you guys have drag queens in Canada. All right. So, what would be a good Canadian drag queen name? I think that's what we really need to explore here.
Well, I mean, it depends if you wanted to invoke a trope or subvert it. If you wanted to invoke it, it'd be like something with maple syrup.
Okay, so ask me any questions you want. We will get to an answer here.
Let's see.
Determine what your criteria is going to be, and then ask me.
Well, do you know if any of them are from Canada?
None of them are from Canada.
Ah, okay. I'm 31 years old. Is any of them 31 years old?
I don't know their specific ages, but if you are looking for people in the 30-year-old range, that's basically everyone but Valentina. Valentina and Alexis Michelle are the only two who are under 30. So
it looks like Trinity Taylor is exactly 31.
Oh, awesome. She's my favorite.
There you go.
But you can have other criteria if you wish.
No, that's fine. Runner-up will be Peppermint because I like short, concise names.
So Nina Bonina Brown never had a chance then, basically,
No.
right?
53.
53. Oh, this is kind of a grim question. What game made you uncomfortable in a bad way?
In a bad way. Well, I mean,
Right.
a lot of times in D&D encounters, I was uncomfortable in a bad way.
Why? Any stories you want to share?
Yeah, well, I'll share one that I feel bad about for what I did, actually. We had a new guy come. He must have been, like, I think he heard of it when Community was on and there was a D&D episode, and so he just, like, came to find out. But I felt really bad after because he showed up and we were in one of the Forgotten Realms cities, and we were in like an alley, and there was like nubiles being like sold, and the guy like just
of course
clearly,
there were.
yeah, of course. And there's I think this guy just thought it might be like an MMO or something, so he walked up to the person selling the slaves and he said, "Hello, I would like a quest, please." And everyone and we all started laughing like a lot right at this guy, and we tried to like bounce back and you know, say we were sorry and all this stuff, but the damage had been done. Like we all knew that this guy was never coming back.
Wow. Well, maybe
Yeah.
he's out there listening to this, trying to give role-playing games a second chance, so maybe we can...
Maybe. And then if so, I'll say go to Dungeon World and treat people like people.
All right. Who's next on the list? No, I think it's Lowell.
Oh, let me roll. 47.
We just had that one, didn't we?
Oh, God. I was trying to avoid answering this question. Oh, shit.
Oh, hey, should we list who asked the question? Like the person who came up with the question? Because we have those names.
Oh, we can from now on, I guess. Yeah.
Number 4 was from Philip Wessels, and the asshole question is surprisingly from Rob Ball.
That's why you wanted to bring that up.
Pretty much, yes. Yes, I love you, Rob Ball.
This is the second week in a row Rob's gotten shade on the podcast.
It's love shade, though, right? Like,
Yeah, it's loving shade.
Yeah.
Laid.
Don't say that again.
laid.
Okay, well, so do we want to make Lowell roll again because you got the same number?
No, let me do this because
All right.
I actually I literally did try to avoid answering before, and now
the fates demand
dice
it.
have
The
faded
fates
it
demand
into
it.
it.
Yeah.
I spent multiple sessions carefully, passively, aggressively destroying someone's campaign.
Ouch.
Sorry,
This is back in the early 90s. I had run a multi-year street-level vigilante game, sort of in the style of Watchmen, that had been really solid. It had been good, it had been fun. It used champions. We were old trad and all that stuff. And I went away to study overseas for a year, got the campaign finished up. When I came back, one of the players in that campaign had started to run a sequel to it, using all the stuff, and he was running a game in the same world that I had spent several years building. And when he came to me and said, "Oh, is this cool with you?" And I was like, "Oh, of course it is." No, I wasn't cool with it. And rather than saying that to him, I used all of my champion's min-max skills to create a character that would break every single damn session, and I would go gonzo whenever I could and break the atmosphere. And so I killed that game. Took me a few weeks, but I did.
Wow.
Damn.
That's
like-
amazing.
Champion
That's some, like,
douche canoe
Frank
over
Underwood
there.
shit
Yeah.
right there. That's
Oh.
bad. Yeah.
Okay, now, since Lowell was forced by fate to answer this question, I feel like I should jump in and
Yes.
complete
Arms
the
open.
set.
Yeah.
So, Rich actually heard me or let me type about this campaign that I was in several years ago. It was a face-to-face D&D 4th edition campaign that, while D&D 4th edition is not really built for the old I check for traps, I roll to unlock the door style of dungeon crawl, that's the style of game that we were in. And there came one session when I knew that there had been enough doors without traps, and I purposefully did not, I was the thief, of course, duh. I purposefully did not check the door for traps. And the GM was like, ah, ha, 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 I've got him. And so when I went to unlock the door, it was with the sole hope that the trap would kill my character. And I could leave. As it turned out, it was some sort of ridiculous rule-breaking fireball trap that killed the entire party. And then everybody else was like, well, I guess we have to make new characters. And this was me being hoisted by my own petard because everybody was like, we have to make new characters. And I was, Anakin turning into Darth Vader. I was like, no! It was horrible. So I was purposefully being an asshole, but I got my comeuppance at the exact same moment that I succeeded.
4E will have its way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So awesome. We mined a lot of that one, Rob. Thanks.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Hey, everybody. I wanted to bring on one of our hosts from back in the day, in the mid-60s all the way up to the 80s, and then she came back for the year-ender episode. The person who coined the term Tridendal, Andrea, is with us. How's it going, Andrea?
Really, really good. Although that introduction makes me feel like I should have worked with like Casey Kasem or something.
Oh, man. I can't do Casey Kasem. I wish I could, because then I could do Shaggy.
Work on that.
Yeah. Okay, so the deal is for our 100th episode, you have to participate in our D100 table. I know you. Do you have a 100-sided die or do you have percentile?
I have
What do we got?
percentile because my 100-sided die is somewhere in a box.
Did you roll it and that it just rolled off the table and just kept going and you gave up on it? Is that how it went?
At one point, yes. I think I may have replaced it once or twice.
Awesome. So I have shared the table with you. This is created by a number of gauntleteers. So roll your D100 and let's see what question I get to ask you.
Okay, and you're going to get like the lovely rolling sound effects because they are real dice, not digital dice.
Yes!
It's because we don't have Dice Dream anymore.
Thanks, Google.
Thanks, Google. All right, I got a 38.
Do you give a rat's butt about sports ball? If yes, please expound for exactly 2 sentences why your favorite sports team is the most amazing. If no, please sketch out in exactly 2 sentences a new sports ball type game for your favorite RPG setting or fictional genre. That is very long. Thanks, Chris Shorb. I will drop that into the notes so you can read it yourself. It's gigantic.
That is amazing. I actually do give a rat's buttocks about sports ball. I have exactly 2 sentences, so I have to think carefully about what I want to say.
They can be run-on sentences.
Can they?
We could pretend that there's colons and semicolons that separate the sentence fragments.
And dashes? I like dashes. All right. Why my favorite sports team is the most amazing. I am from Minnesota, and my favorite sport is hockey, because Minnesota. So my favorite sports team has to be the Minnesota Wild, which is our professional hockey team. They are the most amazing sports team because you really don't know if they're going to show up to play. Every game is an adventure because they might just sit down halfway through and give up after having a 4-goal lead.
I love that there are 3 periods, but they can sit down halfway through. Like, how do they even make that work?
They are really, really good at that. They'll play for about a period and a half, and then they're done. They're like, okay, we've managed to hit the back of the net 4 times. Let's stop. We're ahead. And then you're just watching the other goals just kind of tick through our net, and it's heartbreaking, but exciting.
Nice. Well, Andrea, I am so glad to have you back on the Gauntlet. Thank you for coming on and answering a question for us.
You're welcome.
67.
Whoa, that's a good one. Name 4 game designers with whom you would like to play a short campaign. Who is the MC, and what would your preferred system be?
I would MC, and I think the 4 players would be... I would love to have Meg Baker. I've played with Meg Baker in games, and I would like to have Meg Baker because she brings in her play, she brings like this really lovely textured style to her play, like the way she describes things. It just feels very earthy and textured and lovely. I would like to have at the table as well... Oh boy, this is a hard question. She's the only one who pops to mind immediately. This is a super hard question. Sarah Richardson, because I would like to run a horror game for Sarah Richardson, because I like the challenge because I would really want to bring it, right? Like I would love the thrill of that because I think she's really good at horror, and I consider myself to be really good at horror, and so I would like that, like meeting of the horror minds. I would like Jason Morningstar just because he and I have wanted to play a game together for a while and we have not done it yet. And then the 4th one would probably be Epi. Yeah. Epi, Jason Morningstar, Sarah Richardson, and Meg. I think that would be my like dream team as I'm thinking about it here in this moment. But I would definitely run it. So.
And what game?
Oh yeah, what game? I would do Dungeon World. I'd play Dungeon World with them.
Okay, Lowell, you have to answer that one. I really want to hear your answer.
It's a good question, yeah.
That's hard. There's some people who really like the stuff that I see them write. So I'm going to stick with that. I really like playing with Fraser.
Fraser's
and I'm really impressed with the Veil.
Yeah.
I would say Clark Valentine has written some really interesting stuff for Fate, and I like the stuff that he's brought to the table. I think Marissa Kelly's stuff is really, really good, and when I saw her run at Origins Game on Demand, I think I said this to Rich a while back, is that when I saw her run, I was like, oh, I'm not the best game master in the world. and so that kind of freaked me out. I don't know. Let me think. Who else? I've got 3. That's all I can do is 3 off the top of my head. I think I'd like to play, and probably with Marissa Kelly running, just so I could watch and learn more, because very good, smart moves, smart approaches, and I think watching that is kind of a masterclass.
Cool. Anybody else want to answer that one before we move on to some of our other
I would dig out a shovel, because I would I would game with Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, Kevin Simbita.
He's not even dead.
Well, I'd still dig out a shovel and hit him with it for the Risk board game. And I'd probably go John Harper. I would run it, and it would be Lady Blackbird, because I imagine that John Harper's never gotten to play Lady Blackbird, would be my guess.
That'd be sweet, yeah.
But man, could you imagine Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson playing Lady Blackbird? Who would be Lady Blackbird? I think Gary, right?
I'd be curious.
They would both want to be Snargle.
They would fight over Snargle. Absolutely.
I'd be curious to know how Lady Blackbird ripped off riffs personally, and what
it had to have somehow.
So this is what I'd wonder.
If we're digging up dead people, I would say Eric Wujek, who wrote the Amber Diceless game.
That's a good one. I would kick John Harper off my table to get Eric Wujek.
Damn.
Well, he's a zombie. He came back from the dead. John's got other stuff going on. He's okay. He's fine.
Kate, you should answer this one. This is a good one for you. You know everybody.
So it feels like picking like a favorite child. These are all the people I bring to cons and I love dearly. 4 of them, I would probably Emily Carebaugh.
Oh yeah, I'd probably put her I'd make a 5th spot at my table for Emily.
Yeah.
For ECB.
Yeah, Emily Carebaugh, and I would want to play like the hour between dog and wolf with her. I want to like invert her romance 2-player games and be like, all right, Emily, let's play serial killers.
Nice. that's
So I'm just gonna list one, and I want to play serial killers with Emily Carebaugh.
I love it. Not only did you like not stay within within the confines of the question, you also turned it to a really dark ass thing between you and one other person.
Oops.
And that question was from Horst Wurst.
It's a good question.
Hello, Gauntlet. This is Paul Sega. I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode, and I'm now going to roll my oldest and favorite percentile dice and answer a question. 64. Well, I will say that I was pretty confident I was going to roll an 84, so I had prepared an answer for when do tropes become cliches, which I thought would be, I was pretty happy with that answer. Kind of mind-blowing, but, okay, we'll go with 64. What superpower do you want? Is immortality a superpower? I feel like, as I've gotten older, that I have a better sense of my pacing as a game designer. I have a better sense of what I can do and what the trajectory is of gaming going forward. And I think role-playing and storytelling games, I think we're in the infancy of them. And I want to see it play out. I think there's a trajectory to them. I think stories are how people take ownership of their cultural narrative. And in a time when big media conglomerates, when the narratives that we see and the narratives that we hear are delivered to us by big media conglomerates, and where any one of us can we understand these narratives so well that we can predict the endings of romantic comedies and genre movies that we see. And I think the only way that a culture, I think narratives are how we create culture, and the only way that a society takes control of its culture is by taking control of its narratives. And it feels to me like role-playing games are a democratization of how of who owns narratives within a society, and I think a great role-playing game, a great storytelling game, the player group that sits down to play that game is saying to them, I believe in you. I believe that you have something meaningful to say about how relationships work and what's important in life and how the world works and how society works. And if you sit down and tell stories together, you you're going to have an effect on each other. You're going to have an impact on each other. And, I think, I see a horizon of this, playing out, like 30 years, 40 years from now, where culture is going to be different if people can succeed at, taking ownership of narratives and using them to create a different culture. And I've got so many things that I want to do design wise, and it takes me, and I know what my pacing is for getting games done, and I want to see it play out. So if immortality is a superpower, I choose immortality.
All right. Paul, roll away.
19.
Lowell, why don't you read this time?
Paul, what is best in life?
Uninterrupted sleep.
I will grant you that. Michael Barford presented us with that question. I'm going to second the uninterrupted sleep.
I disagree.
I don't know what is
What?
No, not sleep at all.
I know I sleep like 4 hours a night. I'm trying to think like
2. 2 to 3.
What is best in life?
Comfortable silence. I love comfortable silence between people.
Rich, what's your answer? Is it sports ball related?
Best in life is sitting down with my family and enjoying an activity together where we're all participating. And hopefully, my son's character doesn't die.
Keep it honest. That's what you got to do. Keep it honest. He's gonna have to learn about this stuff eventually, Rich. That's all I'm saying.
he made the last breath roll, though.
Okay, I am here with Dan, original co-host of the Gauntlet Podcast, back on episode 0. Dan, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Can you believe 100 episodes? It's actually 116, but it's 100 numbered episodes. We have chosen it as a natural, arbitrary point in time to celebrate or something. I don't know. I remember so distinctly, like when we first had the idea of even doing the show, and then we, those early episodes. So it's pretty cool that it's kind of kept going.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, congratulations on keeping it going, man.
So you're going to roll D100, and then I'm going to read the question to you from the table.
All right, sounds good.
And you just answer the question.
Okay. I got a 92.
92, okay.
Am I aiming for high or am I aiming for low?
I don't think it really matters.
What's the target number?
Okay, so this is a question submitted by Fowler, actually, and it is, why are skeletons actually the coolest fantasy monster? What was the coolest skeleton you have faced?
So skeletons, I think, are the coolest fantasy monster because there's such a wide variety of skeletons available. So, nearly every fantasy monster... Okay, that's probably not even close to being true, but a lot of fantasy monsters have skeletons inside of them. And so, just by virtue of the fact that you can transform most fantasy monsters into a skeleton version of those monsters means that they are the best fantasy monster in general as a class of fantasy monster. That's
a really good answer, considering you didn't have any time to prepare.
Thank you. Yeah, still got it.
Awesome. Yeah, very good. Very good.
I think the best skeleton I faced was I there for skeleton eggs? I think so. I don't know. We fought some skeletons, probably found some eggs or something. We'll just cut that part out. I'm starting to suspect that roll-dice-online.com is not very well randomized because it's gotten like a million rolls in the 90s, but I'm going to go with 99.
Oh. If you knew your next game would be your last, would you rather GM or be a player?
So it depends on if I could choose the game that we were playing. I think that's the great power of the GM, is to say, no, fuck what you guys want. We're going to play this. And so if I knew I were about to go out, I think I would want that power for myself. But I'd probably rather play otherwise. So
very good, very good. Well, okay, so like when Trump finally pushes the button and we're all about to, be dead, I will be your GM because I'd choose a GM in that game. And you can be the player. It'd be the last role playing game at the end of all days. So,
that sounds good. Yeah, let's do that.
We'll do Apocalypse World. It'll be great. A little training scenario.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it.
All right, Dan. Well, this was super fun. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us celebrate 100 episodes of the Gauntlet Podcast.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Cool. Let's see who's next. It's
Kate.
34.
34. What's the first game that blew your mind?
Blew my mind. Wow. I don't know. I guess it would be when I was like 19 and first started playing CyberGen, having only ever played 2nd and 3rd edition D&D in my life. And it was more story. It was more the GM than the actual game, but it was like the GM just made it story focused and character focused, and it was just this really different experience than anything I had ever played before. And it was just like, oh, there's other things other than D&D. So probably that.
That's a good answer.
Good answer.
No.
That was good.
I've learned a lot about you. I didn't know that. I think it's very informative. I would say Burning Wheel. I'm going to go back to Burning Wheel. I would say Burning Wheel, and with a quick follow-up thereafter of the Shabalhiri Roach. Those are probably my two. Burning Wheel because it really, really... It happened to me right when I was getting back into role-playing games, and because I was just coming off of board games, where mechanics and the gaminess of it are very, very important, Burning Wheel really spoke to me. I was like, oh shit, like I love this just like I like quote unquote designer board games. This looks like a designer role-playing game. I'm into it, and it's doing all these cool things. There's all this theory talk, all this stuff, and it got me wanting to look at role-playing games in a different way. And so I owe that to Burning Wheel in a huge way. I think the other game that like very shortly thereafter that I ran into was the Shabalhiri Roach. And the reason why it blew my mind was because I saw it on the shelf at the game store, and it just looks so curious compared to all the other books that are on the shelf, right? Like it's got this like really janky like vacuum seal packaging with the little cards tucked into it. Which was just super intriguing to me. It looks really DIY, and yet like it's this really thin book. You pop it open, it's got this really cool like design. It's got this cool art. It's got this great authorial voice. This guy Jason Morningstar really knows how to write a game book, I'm thinking, and I love the setting. I was like, gosh, it kind of just opened my mind up to possibilities. I actually don't think the Shabalhiri Roach is actually a very good game. I think it has a lot of issues, like mechanically speaking, but in terms of just like showing me what a role-playing game could be, oh yeah, that one for sure.
There's a part of that package that you forgot, Jason. That
Which
is
part?
A cute little funny story. I ordered that. It arrived at our apartment. My wife opened up the package while I was at work, and it used to, I don't know if it still does, but it used to come with a small plastic roach, which fell onto our arm.
Mine didn't have
after
that.
She opened it up because she was curious, and she sent me a very angry text message. Your game is here. Yeah.
I love it.
I have an answer for that question.
Sure.
Picture, if you will, the early 90s, and a man working as a manager at a game store, bored out of his mind, scrolling through Usenet groups, coming across the mention of something called fudge, which seemed ridiculous, but then finding a text file of fudge and seeing, oh my god, you just make up your characteristics and things? That blew my mind. It totally disoriented me for weeks, and I wound up coming up with some silly game for fudge that I couldn't ever, using fudge that I couldn't ever get anybody to play with me. And then shortly thereafter, Tony Laurabash got me playing Castle Falkenstein, and it was kind of, fudge left my mind for a while there until it reemerged with this whole fate thing.
I'll also mention when I first got a hold of that, I had been, running fate-ish games and loose games and things like that for a long time, and I've been doing sort of on-the-fly collaborative stuff. But it wasn't until I got Microscope that I had real articulation about we're definitely going to collaborate. We're going to stop and we're going to start with collaboration. We're going to build from there. We're going to do that. We're going to have that back and forth that made it really explicit. And I had a table of players who were absolutely terrified of it, who did not want to do it. Because I said, we're going to build a campaign starting with this. And they came into it really reluctant to do it and walked away incredibly pleased. And that
Nice.
that experience really changed the way I approached everything else from then on. I will say that was a complete turning point. I'd been loose, house ruling, taking in input, but I hadn't made that next step to be really thinking about that in that direct way. And Microscope did that for me.
Cool.
Nice. I want to hit it. The first game that blew my mind has been blown many times, but the first game that I would say blew my mind was Vampire the Masquerade. I know, laugh at you will, but before that was all like just D&D, variants of D&D, love letters to D&D. Stalking the Night Fantastic was super cool. Riffs, I played me some riffs. I did all that. And then my wannabe girlfriend, now wife, was like, this Vampire the Masquerade thing looks neat. And it was so fantastic. Not the mechanics, but the meta plot. Hey, let's look at everyday life and where's the vampire in this? Where's the ghost in this? How can we look at American history or world history and find the secret masters? And there was just something so fascinating about that to me. And it didn't hurt that I had like 6, 7 very regular players, and we played like 12, 13-hour sessions every single week for years. It was awesome. It blew my mind.
It's fair.
Welcome to the Gauntlet 100 episode. I'm Kate.
I'm Rach.
I'm Rob.
Rob and Rach, thank you so much for joining us. Listeners, if you're not familiar, Rob and Rach are the two most important people in my gaming and kind of social life. We do Breakout Con together, and they also co-host It's Like D&D. Thank you for joining me.
We're happy to be here.
Always a pleasure. It wobbles.
Suspense. Number 42. Life, the universe, and everything. I wonder what it could be. Have you ever killed someone's character because you were pissed at their player, either as GM or another PC?
Have you?
I don't know that I've killed a whole lot
I know
of
you've terrorized
characters.
them.
Yeah, so definitely as another player, if I'm playing somebody crotchety who likes to yell a lot, which is most of my characters, and you want to be an obstructionist, frustrating player, I will probably just be louder and yell at you a lot. I realize now, thinking back through several games where I've done that.
Yeah, you typically tend to scream and prod people.
Not like scream, but definitely...
Okay, so before I met Rob, I was introduced to Rob by a description of a friend's gaming group, and Rob was that person who yells at the other player all the time.
That's true, I did hear about that, too.
That's interesting. Maybe I just don't play enough. I get very passionate.
Well, you did intentionally kill a character once after the GM was like, "Oh no, your character isn't dead." That was
I did kill my own character.
Yeah,
once.
because that was your D&D
Out
character.
of spite for the GM. I think that counts.
I think that's a little inverted.
Maybe,
but
well, it's yeah. All right. Have you ever killed a character as a player or GM because of reasons? Specifically because you were pissed at that player?
No, not really. I just made it so that they don't want to come back.
That's fair.
I don't think. I mean, there's games where the whole point is to have people's characters die, so something like Pen Handles, and everyone's died. But I've never been like spiteful.
Rach, why don't you roll the die one more time? It's number 42 again.
Yeah, let's not do that. It was 50.
What moment was amazing, intense, and blew your mind, but is one you'd never want to do again?
Oh shit!
Wow.
Wonder who wrote this question.
Was it me?
Yeah.
Shit.
Hey, answer your own question. Go.
I did last night. Not this one, though.
Oh, that's easy. Don't rest your head. Our party. So we were playing Kate's post-apocalyptic "Don't Rest Your Head" game, where we were all people who had died in tragic, upsetting ways. We had all come back from dead, and we didn't know our purpose of being back, except that we were all had this, drive inside us to go to the CN Tower. And we're walking down a set of train tracks, and there's an actual train, which is weird because this is after the fairy tale apocalypse, where essentially all the Fey realm had spilled over into the real world. And Rob, who was, I think this was the first Marovich, this was Marv, came to the conclusion that he was going to stop the train with his face, and actually stood in front of the tracks, and that happened. And then we discovered that the train was a community, and decided we are going to conquer this right now. And our whole party had various roles in this, and things just went to shit. And people, like NPCs were dying, and people were having breakdowns in character and walking away from the scene. And we had like about 2 hours of what was basically 5 minutes of play. The aftermath was these 2 hours of just characters screaming at each other so they could just emotionally burn themselves out because they're so horrified or empowered by what had just happened. And it was amazing, but I would never want to do that again because it was deeply upsetting. On a hilarious coda to this, Rob and I were grocery shopping a few weeks later. We were going to the epilogue of this game, and we kept threatening pseudo in character in the grocery line that we were going to kill each other at the top of the CN Tower. And the cashier gave us this look like she was about to call the cops.
All right, Lowell.
Okay. 22.
I'll read for you, Lowell.
We should have done a D50 table at this point, man. What's up with this?
Yeah.
What game do you love to read but never play? That should be pretty easy for you, Lowell. Gosh, you read every book there is.
Well, that makes it actually harder
fair,
because there are a lot of them. There's so many good settings that I dig. I think Weapons of the Gods by Eos Press, out of print, was redone as Legends of the Wu Lin. Weapons of the Gods is crazy. It's built on this licensed like Hong Kong comic book property, and Rebecca Borgstrom, I can't remember what name she goes by now. She wrote part of it. The rules are weird. They're weirdly written. They're full of the background of the text. Like all of the setting material and background is so integrated into the rules that you can't really detach them. And I go back and reread that every couple of years and go, nope, never running this. Can't understand the rules, but boy, this is fun to read. I love it. So much cool stuff in there, so many great ideas, but not a game that I will ever run.
I'd throw in for Trail of Cthulhu as mine. Yeah. Love to read it. Fun book to read.
It's so good.
All the supplements, too. I like to read all the Trail of Cthulhu stuff. I just have no interest in playing it.
Hi there. This is Todd from the Jankcast, and the question I rolled was number 71. Which publish it and forget it game do you wish got more love? This is really easy for me. The answer is Dust Devils. It came out about 15 years ago. It's a Western game by Matt Snyder. And it is this really cool kind of early narrative-driven indie game where there's a lot of kind of cool little things like you can win a conflict, but someone else could be the person who gets to narrate what happens in it. So they have to narrate that you won the conflict, but they get to choose how it happens. There's a lot of kind of little cool bits of like narrative sharing and sharing different kind of ways of letting people have authority and things like that. It uses a cool poker mechanic, which gives it a nice Western feel, and it really gets the mechanics of the Western. I love Westerns, but they're a super hard genre to get right for reasons that range from the political to the just kind of people tend to focus on the surface stuff of the Western, like, you know, cowboy hats and, you know, shootouts and things like that, and then mess it up because they're focusing on the surface elements as opposed to kind of the underlying mechanics of the Western. But Dust Devils really gets it. Dust Devils asks this question about each character, which is kind of what's the thing that drives them, which the game calls their devil. And the question is the devil going to consume them? So your devil could be something like, you know, you are too old for this now. So are you going to give up and retire, or are you going to try to do it one last time? You have a movie like Unforgiven, and that's kind of the question at the heart of Unforgiven. Like, are you too old for this? Or, you know, the question at the heart of a movie like Once Upon a Time in the West is revenge, right? Are you going to let revenge consume you, and then it's going to kind of drive you, or are you going to give it up? And it's a movie about people who kind of can't give it up, right? So Dust Devils really gets this sort of underlying theme of the Western, this thing that drives you, that's going to consume you, that you have to do, or that, or you have to learn to give up. And that's at the heart of it, which creates these really cinematic character arcs. So you can play a good 1 or 2 shots of Dust Devils and have people, have characters just have these really great arcs where they kind of move from being, someone who is a certain kind of person, and as they kind of go over the course of the game, have to keep wrestling with these questions. Are they going to keep pushing? Are they not? As far as I'm aware, there's no supplements for it. It just kind of came out about 15 years ago, I think 2003 or so, came out and got a little bit of attention when it first came out. Every once in a while, I run into someone who's played it and love it, but most people don't seem to have heard of it. I think it's out of print, so if you can get your hands on a copy of Dust Devils, I highly recommend it.
Rich, roll your dice.
All right, here we go. Come on, something high.
High numbers, man.
92.
Ooh.
Why are skeletons actually the coolest fantasy monster? What was the coolest skeleton you have faced? That's given to us by one Daniel Fowler.
That's a very Fowler-ass question. So.
They're not the coolest fantasy monster.
And
the question.
answer the question, Rich.
No, you have to
answer the question.
Why are they the coolest?
Orc skeletons are the coolest fantasy monster because they used to be orcs. And they died, and they're so badass that they came back as orc skeletons, and that's why they are the coolest fantasy monster. So the coolest skeleton I've faced, I haven't faced a great deal of skeletons. So there was one though. I was at a convention in Chattanooga, surprisingly named Chattacon, and a guy was running the Dungeon of Agmar. He ran it for the entire con. People would drop in, play for a little bit until their character died, and then walk away. And we walked through this hall with a bunch of skeletons that were pinned up in bizarre stances, wearing armor, and then the pins all came off, ting, 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 and then they attacked and killed us. I guess that's the coolest skeleton I ever faced, but I had a cool skeleton story in a Savage Worlds game that I ran for quite a while. Arnold Cassell, who's going to be Chief Owlbear this year at Camp Nerdly, I'm going to next week. He faced a skeleton, a Lodley skeleton, and the damage to his ogre from the skeleton exploded 6 times, and he died in 1 shot.
Nice.
1 shot.
It's good. It's badass.
That skeleton was like, this hatchet is coming for your face.
Nice. All right, I guess it's my turn to roll. Let's see here.
Nice. Nobody else wanted to go on skeletons, huh? Good job, Daniel.
I'll throw in for skeletons. I actually have it's not that I faced, but I do have one of my very favorite Dungeon World boss set pieces, which I've reused 100 times, it's a large sort of Dark Souls-esque mass of bones, and in which there is a cleric inside of it wearing it like a mecha suit essentially, and I call it the Bone Cleric, and it's always a really fun fight. It's always a really deadly fight. Someone always dies. Good fun. And Fowler died facing the Bone Cleric, so I think it's a good answer. His character anyway.
I will say I avoided skeletons in early D&D stuff because there's a Ray Bradbury story about someone being afraid of their skeleton and the skeleton escaping from his body. And I read that when I was a little kid, and that fucking freaked me out. And it stayed with me for years. So yeah, avoided them for a long time.
All right. Are we all good on? Have we gotten that out of our bones?
Oh, Rich. I mean, Jason.
I know.
Wait,
I know why you would say Rich, but I am here with Ollie Jeffrey, the brilliant layout artist from the Codex RPG zine, 1/3 of the Codex team. Ollie, are you ready to roll on the D100 table of questions?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
All right, go ahead and roll the dice. What did you get?
Okay, I got 59.
59. That feels like a good number.
It does.
Let's see. The question is, where did you go, my lovely?
I went to work and then came home again because that's the sad tragedy of my life. Okay, this time I got 48.
48. Best Powered by the Apocalypse game ever, not from the perspective of influence or being one of the first ones, but just the best of all of them.
Oh, Jesus, that's a big question.
It's a hard question, yeah.
It is, and I'm going to go with Dungeon World. Because
Dungeon World, okay, cool.
I think Dungeon World does the best job of making Powered by the Apocalypse make sense. I think pretty much everything that came after it would have struggled a lot more if it wasn't for Dungeon World being there in the first place.
I like Dungeon World as an answer. I almost feel like I have to say it because I play so much of it and I have a podcast about it. But, go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, I tried to read a couple of the PBTA games before, and I just didn't really get what was going on. And I think probably just because Dungeon World is D&D and my background is D&D.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot of people's story, right? Like, I mean, I think that was the great thing about Dungeon World, which was that Adam and Sage kept in those easy, identifiable hook things for D&D that people know, you know, like I feel like that was a purposeful decision to sort of breed familiarity, and I think it worked great. I'm just going to answer the question too, because why not?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Night Witches. I think that's the best one in terms of how a really good Powered by the Apocalypse game can be finely tuned to tell a really specific story. I think Night Witches is bang on. It's so good. I mean, every piece of that game is like carefully considered to tell this like really particular story, and it works great. So
yeah, I was just going to say that there's some people occasionally think that PBTA is generic, and it's not at all. It's that you can tune it to tell any story, but once you tune it, it tells that story. It doesn't do another. You can't play.
It does not. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was fun. Ollie, thanks for joining us on our 100 episode.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor.
98.
Okay, so have you ever had to eject someone from your playgroup or gaming community? What were the circumstances that led to that?
Yep, that was submitted by me.
That is brought to us by Jason Cordova.
That's my question I put on the table. I have had to do that, and I actually told this story on episode 6 of the podcast, actually. So we had a cat who was basically harassing some of the women in our community. He was using the meetup message system to send them obnoxious messages, very personal messages, and I had no idea about it until it like kind of got to a head or whatever. But eventually I did find out about it, and I just summarily kicked him out. I was like, please don't ever come back. And the reason why that story sticks with me is because the reason why no one told me or why no one said anything to anybody was because the two women in particular who were being harassed by this guy, they said, and I'm quoting them, they did not want to be the women who ruined everyone else's fun. And so they didn't say anything. And lesson learned. I was like, okay, well, there's that. And it fucking sucked. And so like, that guy was, I mean, and another thing to kind of add some texture to the story here too, is he would do really obnoxious things to the men players too, but of a different sort. Like he one time sent me a text message of like his bloody face. Like he got beat up in a parking lot, and he just thought it would be fun to like take a picture of his bloody face and message that to me. He one time sent me, this was after he was kicked out. After he was kicked out, he sent me a message about like how to create homemade ether, which I thought was really nice guy. And I called the cops at that point to see if they would do something about it, but because this was way after he was kicked out of the group.
I kicked a guy out for cheating a lot, unabashedly, all the time.
I think that's a legit reason, especially if you've tried to cover it with them before.
Yep. We had 2 conversations, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not welcome back. Except I didn't say I'm sorry.
We had a guy who kind of clearly was cheating at the table, but I kind of didn't care, because I have all the points. I don't care if whatever you do. But he was really kind of obnoxious. I played with him since I was in high school. But he was kind of bugging me a little bit, and he would always talk over Sherry. And he would always step on her turf, and and all that stuff. And Sherry it bugged her. We talked about it. But then I heard that he was having problems with a woman in another one of the games that he was playing in, this Pathfinder game. And I was talking to the GM about how that was going. And the GM said, well, I told this woman just to let Rob have his way, to not confront him. And I was like, wait, what? And I said, maybe you should talk to both of them. And he goes, yeah, well, Rob, I was talking to Rob about it, and Rob said he just doesn't like assertive women.
Oh.
And I said, I said, wait, did he literally say that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you understand what he just said? And my friend was like, oh. And yeah, that was the point at which we cut him loose from our group, because that was just what the fuck. Sorry, just.
It's okay.
Dude, you've been dropping F-bombs all night.
F-bomb away.
It was the craziest. I can't even.
Oh, I kicked out a person once from early days. This was early days of Gauntlet in Houston, because they went on like a Islamophobia tear. Like they were like, every chance they got, they wanted to tell us about like evil Muslims. And at a certain point, it was only a couple of sessions in where we kind of like, the first time we were like, hey dude, we would just like to not talk about stuff like that, if that's okay. Could you please keep that to yourself? And then he did it the second time, and we were just like, okay, sorry, this is not working out. You need to go. And then he proceeded to get mad at me and basically like harassed me on G+ for like a year.
Oh, the cheater guy, like, it wasn't just that his die rolls were bad. He would like buy the module that was running. I taught myself to run games by basically running shit out of the Dungeon magazine, right? I had no confidence whatsoever, and so I had to have somebody else's framework. And he would go read them and then tell people what was going to happen. And they were like, this is terrible. There's no... So, yeah.
So, this question feels a lot like airing dirty laundry, because I run a group of people with a bunch of other people of like 2,400 people. So, we've kicked a lot of people out over the years, from everything from the guy who would steal glasses from the bars we were going to.
Oh, wow. That's so,
put his hat over top.
It's so like trivial. Like, why would you do that?
Right?
Like, so...
And then he wouldn't admit it when we're like, dude, there's a glass in your lap. Like, we know you're doing it.
How comical. He's like, I didn't take a glass. You're like...
Yeah, it was really cute. We were like, you know what, we're done with you. That was after many other people saying he made them uncomfortable. So one guy was following women home, and he would like follow them to the subway and follow them home, and then he got angry at a girl for friend zoning him. I put that in air quotes. And then we got in an argument about why he shouldn't live out his personal sexual fantasies at a public game at the table. And then we had a complaint and we kicked him out, and he went to 4chan and told everyone that I personally kicked him out because I was an SJW and I was ruining the Toronto gaming scene. And then I got harassed for a couple weeks and Meetup got crashed. We kicked out a guy who stalked me for a year and a half. That was fun. We kicked out a person who was using Meetup, like our Meetup site, to meet women and send them messages about pedophilia. Yeah, after we had the cops involved. Yeah, like we've kicked out a lot of people for sexual harassment and just like, not assault. It's never come down to assault, but there's been a shit ton of sexual harassment. And one guy who was racist. Yeah. So, but keep in mind, we've been around for like 12 years. But it's about once a year we have to call the cops.
Yeah, it's big group. Yeah, really big group too. So.
Well, I was sitting here like, do I say this or do I not? And I felt like the message of like sexism is rampant was more important.
Boy, I hope we get a more lighthoughted question on the next one. I really do. No, it needs to get out there. I mean, come on. Yeah. I don't think you can ever tell these stories too much because people, I don't want to say this, but like there might be some people who like maybe they're low level, like obnoxious behavior. They don't realize it, so maybe it's good for them to hear those stories. But some of the stuff some of that stuff's way out of line. Like I don't even see
those rebels
get by in society, and I mean, God. Stealing glasses from bars, Jesus Christ.
When Canadians go bad.
Yeah.
Hello, Gauntleteers. This is Chris from Misdirected Mark, and I'm going to now roll on the D100, and Bob Everson from Misdirected Mark is going to ask me a question.
32. Do you play as much as you want, not enough, or too much?
I play exactly as much as I want to play. I just do. I mean, I play Dresden Files Accelerated every other week. I play D&D now twice a week. I mean, mostly every other week for each of those games. I play Masks once a week. I play Masks in a longer form every other week. I play Blades in the Dark. I play a lot of games. So there you go. That's me.
Hey, Gauntlet community. I'm Phil Vecchione from the Misdirected Mark podcast, and I'm ready to have Bob Everson roll D100 and ask me a question.
58. Number 58. Why do people have stupid fucking dice superstitions?
Oh, I love this question because I've had most of them, and I've played with people who had all of them. People have dice superstitions. One, because we as human creatures are always superstitious and always believe that there's some higher power affecting dice, when in truth, most of the time we just have dice that aren't always well manufactured and don't roll well. So our cursed die is almost always just off balance. But people like superstitions. It makes them feel good. It gives them ritual. Humans love rituals. So stacking dice, putting them all numbers up first, warming them up, rolling, the infamous competitor die to make one die roll better. All of those are just kind of things we do as humans to make it feel better when we roll really crappy. So we'd like to give blame to some higher order or something for our shitty rolls and not worry about whether our dice are really balanced or well constructed. So game science. That's what I want to say.
And to you Gauntleteers out there, congratulations on 100 episodes.
Yeah, congratulations on 100 episodes, and we hope to hear 100 more.
What game made you uncomfortable in a good way? Mine was Bluebeard's Bride. Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, it was intensely uncomfortable, and it was really, and frankly, gross most of the time. But it was good, and because I had fun, and I think the game accomplishes its goals in terms of like what it wants you to think about. So, yeah, I think it was good in that sense. I mean, if it was deeply uncomfortable playing it, but I was having a good time at the same time. So, there you have it.
Mine would be Before the Storm. Every time I've played it, it's very uncomfortable because you're all about to die, and you're calling each other out on your shit right before you're going to die because you're like, oh, we're dying tomorrow. I guess we better sort our crap out. So you're always really uncomfortable because people are lashing accusations at you left, right, and center, and you have to own them and then move forward from there. And it's always really uncomfortable, but also really rewarding and intense.
Hi, this is Lowell. I'm here with my wife, Sherry Stewart, who is about to roll for her Gauntlet 100 question. All right, Sherry, so you rolled an 8 at first, which is roll 3 times and choose which question to answer. And so the questions were, where did you go, my lovely? And what is the most tragic or downright nastiest PC death you have witnessed / participated in? And what moment have you had recently in which you were proud of your players, or in this case, your fellow players, since you're a player more than a GM?
Right, I think I will go with the player question, merely because recently, now we play a lot of games, but every once in a while we sort of flip back to the more classic standard D&D-like game, and recently we've been playing a little mini campaign of 13th Age, and it's a set of players that I haven't played with this combination before. There's one quite new player who's younger than the rest of us, another gentleman who's a little bit younger than us, but not much, and we haven't played with him at all before. And then, of course, Steve, who we played with for 25 years. And we have played, I mean, our characters have gelled pretty well. It's a simple setup. We have a monk and a cleric and a rogue and a druid healer. And the last session that we played, we actually ended up having to do a very classic creep into a temple, to see what's going on, poisonous swamp, problem that needs to be solved, and we find a black dragon in there. the thing that was really neat about it was when we took care of as much as we could of clearing the temple and stuff together. We were went through all of those steps. But once we dropped into the dragon fight, it was delightful because everyone trusted everyone else. We were all fighting in sync, not in a mechanics way, but in very much a fictional way. We set the monk up so that he could hammer the dragon on his own. We were taking care of the other guys. There's lots of slapstick and funny descriptions of what was going on, and it was just a fight that, even though we were engaging with the mechanics, it never felt like the mechanics were what we were working with. It was just us describing the scene and rolling the dice and, describing what happened from that, and it felt as natural and clean and lovely as a role-playing in that classic mold can feel. It was just a ton of fun. And I came out of that feeling good, and I think everyone else had an awesome time too. It was just a classic good time.
10, huh? Okay. I'm going to read these questions. Since Jason wanted voices earlier...
Oh dear.
I am going to read this question as Peter America, who definitely did not run role-playing games for any recent political campaigns. No matter what anyone says.
If I believed in God, I would say God bless you, Paul Edson.
So, Kate, Kate, tell us, what moment have you had recently in which you were proud of your players?
She's about to say none.
I feel like it's weird to say you're proud of them. Yeah, I have moments where I'm proud of my peoples, but my players. I know there was a thing recently where it could have been really gross, and all the players called out this other guy, and I was proud because I was like, I didn't have to do shit, yo. But for doing something cool and being, I ran Fall of Magic recently at a all women with an asterisk gaming retreat, and I asked beforehand that we all stay present and we don't use our phones and we really just be with the game, and we're all people who have a habit of doing things between things because we're all organizers, so we all committed and dug in, and it was a really good moment of people who aren't good at getting into the game and having that space and holding the space and inviting people into the space. And it was a really good moment where I was like, oh, look at us, we managed to to back off from being distracted, because Fall of Magic requires you to be present in a way a lot of games don't, and it was good. So I was really proud of that moment to see these women just kind of be like, no, we're gonna do this. We're not gonna be moms and organizers and caretakers for everybody right now. We're gonna step out of that role.
I'm gonna say for me, it was Saturday and Sunday for me. The players are fucking knocking it out of the park. I mean, just knocking the shit out of the park. The collaboration going on, the care and concern for one another and each other's characters, the overall there's just a tremendous group commitment to telling a good story, and everyone is just really on point with their RP and really on point with kind of giving me what I need as a GM in terms of what they want to explore in the game, while also receiving what I want to give as the GM in turn. It's a nice back and forth, and LOL's in that game. So just as a little FYI for everybody here on the call, I love it. They were two just really outstanding games, and I think the players were the main reason why. I mean, they were great. So
yeah, first time I played Monster Hearts, and the first time I played Dungeon World for more than one session, and people, just great group, so much fun to play with. I'm always much more nervous when I'm playing than when I'm running, and it really, especially because I come in to Monster Hearts game in Fraser's seat because he can't play, right. So I'm in here in a game which has already established characters, and everyone was so good about bringing me in and bringing me along and being willing to add me to the story, and so that was just dynamite. I'll say one. I'm running Mutineer Zero at home, face-to-face group, 6 players to the table, big table, but I've told them, I said we were only going to play 12 sessions, and they've managed to drag this out, and I said, no, we got to be moving towards the end game, and last session, I said, okay, well, now you're going to do this thing. And they were like, no. We picked up this radio signal like several sessions back. Screw the end game. We're going to drive all the way north, and we're going to do all the side quests we possibly can for as long as we can to drag this thing out. and they ran me to ground, and essentially made me run extra sessions over what I kind of had planned to do. And I love them for strong arming me in some ways. So it was a fun back and forth where I could rave that I didn't want them to do this, but they were going to push through. So it was good fun.
I want to amend my answer now that I've thought about it.
Okay.
Recently, I ran a game of Monster Hearts for a bunch of folks in the Gauntlet, and we had, I think, 1 or 2 volatile rolls the entire 9 sessions, and our season finale was so good, and it was 4 dudes, 4 dude characters, and the last session there was not a single volatile move rolled at all. There were 3 turn people on moves, and that's how they finished the story, by being friends.
Wow.
So good.
I have lots of volatile rolls in mind because my player characters are running away all the time because I push everything towards a horror mode. I can't help it.
There have been a number of times when I'm just so thankful to be part of the Intercontinental Group of Awesome that plays on Sundays. It's a hard game to prep for this group because I never know where we're going to go, but there are entire sessions where I like, okay, I think I know what we'll do, and then we go somewhere wonderful, and it always surprises me. I'm proud of Jules because she plays characters like the peasant, and I'm like, oh man, don't play the peasant. These people are all like water shapers and fire shapers and air shape. What are you going to do? Oh, you're going to be the most interesting character in the game. And I've gotten to the point with the group, and it isn't always fire. I feel like I don't always hit a home run, but I feel like we've got a really good batting average, right? My OPS is pretty great. I'm not even going to explain it to you people. I don't care. But I wrote my game notes for the last Apocalypse roll game that I ran were lights go out. That was my entire prep for the whole game. And it was amazing because they were proactive and they thrived within the setting and thought of ideas of like, okay, well, let's try to problem solve this. And it was super good. It was really amazing. I have a lot of trust and faith in that group. So, yeah, proud of them.
Interestingly, I find that fun that Rich had the idea lights go out as his prep for the session. And even though it was just 3 words, he still had to write it down.
I am here with David Lafreniere, my co-host on the Discern Realities podcast and co-editor of our zine Codex. Hi, David.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Are you ready to roll on the D100 questions table?
I am ready. I can't believe this is a real thing. This is like skill check all over again.
It really is. Don't roll a 1 or we're fucked.
Don't roll a 1. All right, let's see what we get. I got 33.
33. What was the last game to blow your mind?
The last game to blow my mind. Well, I mean, there's a couple ways to think about it. The last system to blow my mind or the last game session to blow my mind?
Good point. Choose.
Yeah. The last game to blow my mind was Dialect. Absolutely. That game system is doing things that have never been done before. It's very cleverly designed to tell a story that's all about you kind of discovering what language changing means for a society and in a very short amount of time. And I've never seen another game kind of have that kind of design goal or even kind of come close to that. So that definitely was blowing my mind.
What about session, since you brought it up?
I think game session that was blowing my mind, and you're going to have to help me remember what the name of this game was, but it was a story game Sunday game where you and I and Dan Lewis were playing, and I was a writer, and you all were other characters.
Oh, yeah. Left Coast. Yeah, that was really good. I had a lot of fun with that. That was the one where it was inspired by Philip K. Dick, and you were like an author in the 60s who was also a professor, and basically like your short story that you were writing was kind of coming to life, and like everything was kind of bleeding into your world, and there was like some kind of entities that were coming into the world, and yeah, that was a really good game. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it was kind of a gotcha because you two had secret information from me and were subtly introducing it. And it was just driving me crazy because...
There was one other player, too. Who was the other player? It was me and Dan and a third person,
was it Philip?
It might have been, yeah. Well, anyway, I like that one a lot. That was a really, really good game. Yeah, that was a pretty mind-blowing session. I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah, so those are the game and game session that were last blowing my mind.
Thanks for coming on the show and helping us celebrate 100 episodes of the Gauntlet Podcast.
Yeah, 100. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, even though you've been like a very occasional co-host on the Gauntlet Podcast, but you're very important to the Gauntlet Podcast in other ways too, just because you help me out with so much stuff like in the Gauntlet. So this is just as much for you as it is for us.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to the Gauntlet even when I'm not a host, because very often I get mentioned. That one player, David. That's
right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again.
All right, here we go. Rolling on the table. 37.
Rich, you have choice. Never play role-playing games for the rest of your life, or only play Pathfinder for rest of your life. Which do you go for? This comes to us from Ollie Jeffrey.
Pathfinder, why not? I can roleplay in any system. They can just kick me out. I'll do my funny voices.
I'd Pathfinder.
We'll just house roll it and keep calling it Pathfinder.
I'd choose Pathfinder.
We just house rule it down, keep stripping things out.
Until I got it where I want it. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you think?
I also a Pathfinder, because absolutely.
Kate.
No dice.
Oh.
Wow.
I would, however, start playing a lot of really freeform story games.
Oh, because they're not role-playing games. So
That's
easy.
right,
Done.
right?
Nice. Ding, 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 ding.
Fair.
You
And
win.
I'd also get into a bit of LARP.
Yeah. Smart.
Oh, I just said A. Oh, Jesus Christ! Am I becoming Canadian? Oh my
One of
God.
us.
It's from playing with Fraser so much is what it is, because Fraser goes A, and he goes I don't know if this is a Canadian thing, but he always goes kind of thing. It's like a something kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it's kind of thing. Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, I am here with Slade Stoller, game designer, supporter of the Discern Realities podcast, contributor to the Codex RPG zine, and an all-around good guy. Hi, Slade. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so here's what we're doing. We have created a table of 100 questions. I'm going to ask you to roll a D100, and I'll read the question that pops up from the table, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Sounds great.
Okay, so go ahead and roll some percentiles.
Okay. And I've maxed my waveform and rolled a 45.
A 45. Oh, this is your question. What session left you thinking about it for days? Listeners, that question was submitted by Slade Stoller.
Oh boy. I think the session that left me thinking about it for days was a session that I had at Forge Midwest last year. I had just gotten kind of back into gaming after years and years away. And I knew that Paul Sega would be there, and I knew that Ron Edwards would probably be there, and Lilo Palachuk, and like dozens of really
Forgeites, all the Forgeites there at Forge Midwest,
all the Forgeites at Forge Midwest, and I really admired their design work, and I thought, first con, I might want to go to Forge Midwest, so I went out there, and Paul was playtesting this game called Traverser. It's been in develop a good long time, and he took it to Forge Midwest this year, but I didn't get to go to that. And yeah, it's something that kind of stuck with me, where to see the game being played in that setting was really nice. And so I played this character who was a bit of a recovering alcoholic, a female military or ex-military who could manipulate quantum rifts in reality and kind of play with a kind of malleable reality. And so I was trying to kind of get over myself and having this really emotional scene with this other female ex-military person. And a green super soldier made of algae, potentially, came walking out of the water and kind of admitted through some dialogue that he'd been watching me for a few days. And he was very, very sorry about what had happened. And we got into this whole thing about how he was created by a government scientist a long time ago. And, he's kind of been landlocked here in this lake. And it was just weird. And it was just kind of cool. And he definitely had the hots for me. And yeah, it was just very odd. I don't know if people have seen Paul run The Clay That Woke, but he's really good at jumping between multiple characters and trying to balance those things. So I even when it wasn't my turn, I was really enjoying the stories that other people were telling. And that's my rambling answer to something that had me thinking for days. So I was kind of coming down off the con crash and going, oh, that was intriguing. I wonder where that could have gone if we'd had more sessions. That's a 63.
This was a question submitted by Todd Zurcher. Pretty simple. What do you do?
Oh, geez. I think I pick up the snake staff and I aim it at the captain of the ship. He's not getting away.
Slade, that was great. Thanks so much for coming onto the show and helping us celebrate 100 episodes of the Gauntlet Podcast.
Thank you for doing what you do. The Gauntlet is awesome.
65.
So, Jason, tell us, what is your favorite player race and or species?
Elves.
What?
Yeah, I knew that. What, don't you listen to the show?
Has no one listened to the podcast? Elves. Yeah, it's totally
funny,
elves.
Not real.
No, I genuinely like elves.
No, I don't know if we can be friends.
I know everyone everyone hates elves. I know there's so much burning elf hatred. I think it's so ridiculous. I consider it racist, frankly. If you want to go get real here, it's fantasy racist. It's speciesist.
Speciesist.
Here's the thing. I think elves are. What I love about elves is elves are a connection to the ancient world. Like, elves are how you make a connection to like the really, really, really old parts of the world. And in fantasy games, that's a theme I like to explore. And so that's why I like elves. And I think elves are a great narrative driver. So even if they do just love the trees.
Yeah.
And are haughty.
They
should also be tall as well. So there's that.
This is Peter America. This is Peter America with follow-up question. Based on materials we have definitely not downloaded from your computer, I would have guessed this answer to be sexy teenage werewolf.
Not technically a race or a species. If we're going to get really technical here.
Whoa, hello, werewolf guru. Ouch.
Both race and species.
They're not my favorite, though. So they might be my second favorite. No.
Perhaps we downloaded wrong folder, Mark.
Downloaded wrong folder.
Prawn.
What about you guys? What's your favorite race or species?
Not elves.
Make your
orcs.
Make your case. We know orcs. That's easy. Who else?
It's easy.
Like fantasy only? Are we talking about fantasy species or like?
Well, I think things people would know. I guess, right?
Okay, fantasy. I'm all about the orcs.
Don't say dragonborn. Okay.
No, I would never say dragonborn. I also thoroughly enjoy gnomes.
Get behind gnomes. Yeah.
I kind of like goblins as a concept. Not the sort of the funny goblins, but we had a long run where there were goblin folk in our fantasy games, and they were like little humans. You know, they had their own stuff, and they were kind of had their own stuff, but they would dress in, as Sherry put it, vegetable colors. So like eggplant coats and orange pants and things like that. And Sherry painted up all these figures, took hobbits and painted them green, and they became just a lovely sort of centerpiece of a lot of the worlds, and so I've kind of come to appreciate that.
I did goblins too. Goblins are great. We used to do that's the only voice I've ever done in the game. We also all used to do goblin voices.
Nice.
I will also say, related to that, kobolds.
Yes.
Because there used to be this animated series called Unforgotten Realms, and all the kobolds talk like this. They'd go, kobold, 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 kobold. And I would do that at the table then, as the voice of the kobolds, and then they'd be kobold, kobold, kobold. And I could drop the table with that, so.
I love it. Okay, guys. That was a really fun way of ending the show. I'm glad we ended on that question. Instead of the what horrible people we are in gaming question. Guys, thank you so much for being on our 100th episode. Listeners, thank you guys so much for sticking with us for 100 episodes. If you've been with us for a while, if you just found the Gauntlet, we're happy to have you, and we hope to give you another 100 episodes that will sneak up on you or on me. Rich, thank you so much for all your help with the show over these last, I think you came on episode, 25 or 26, something like that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and Jason, thanks for keeping this thing going.
Yeah,
it's
you're
been super
very
fun.
welcome. Lowell, thank you so much. I think you joined on around like episode 60-ish or 70-ish, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think 59, 60.
Thank you for your contributions.
Yeah. It is most welcome.
Kate, I don't remember what episode you joined in on, Kate, but I know that it was in January. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We love having you. And Paul, the newest member of Team Gauntlet Podcast, who has joined us as an editor for... 5 episodes now? 5 or 6 episodes?
I believe so.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You're doing a great job, considering I'm sure you won't mind if I tell people this, but the show is edited beautifully, and I don't think Paul's done much podcast editing before this. So that's what I was led to believe anyway. So good job.
That is true.
It's
Thank you very much.
Really sharp. Guys, that's it. You guys know where to find us. I don't feel like dragging this out anymore. So enjoy the rest of your week.
19.
What is best in life?
Oh, nice. To hear the lamentations of the... No, just kidding. Man, it's hard not to think of something really cheesy, but I'm just gonna go with something cheesy anyway. And I think for me, I got involved with the Gauntlet community when I was kickstarting, and in the beginning it was just like, hey community, hey, come check out my game. But unlike some people, I did still stick around and interact with people and got to play with you guys and whatnot. And I think it's literally been the highlight of 2016 and 2017 for me.
Awesome.
So.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah. What is best in life is the Gauntlet.
Awesome. Fraser, that was super fun. Thanks so much for coming on and helping us celebrate 100 episodes of the Gauntlet Podcast.